It triggered the virulent politics now playing out nationally. The handling of the public health crisis fell victim to a partisan brawl.
We're still not getting what we need from the federal government. Without a comprehensive national strategy, we, the states, must take action.
Michigan finding itself in the president's crosshairs today.
Michigan, she has no idea what's going on, and all she does is say, oh, it's the federal government's fault, and we've taken such great care of Michigan.
She has moved aggressively to seize even more control.
These restrictions are ridiculous.
Why do they have to ask uncomfortable questions about what Governor Whitmer is doing? They should shut up, and if they don't, we're going to arrest him. That's her position.
I feel bad for law enforcement. They have to enforce these ridiculous rules.
A series of protests denouncing the governor culminated in threatening scenes inside the Capitol building.
So everybody's getting there. Open the door! Open the door! You betrayed us! Traitors that betrayed the people! You're filthy rats! Let go!
These are people expressing their views. They seem to be very responsible people to me.
Some members of the Michigan State Legislature are wearing bulletproof vests today.
Oh, that's good.
Michigan Liberty Militia are particularly upset by the lockdown measures. Phil Robinson is one of the founders.
It was a stomp on our constitutional rights. I mean, an executive order is not law. So we all comply to unconstitutional laws.
People entering the Capitol with those long arms. How do you view that?
It should be accepted. It's our right to do that here in the state of Michigan. The Capitol is we the people's house. It's a public building. It's everybody's house.
What do you think of people that say they were intimidated, that they thought it was scary?
My rights don't end where your feelings begin. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean that I have to change what I like or do. I will fight for my rights. Physically, whatever I have to do, yes, I will fight to defend my rights, my children's rights.
Who said right is? John the Revelator. Who said right is? John the Revelator. Who said right is?
In the state's largest city, Detroit, almost 80% of people are African American. It's a Democrat stronghold. It was decimated by coronavirus.
On every level, COVID has exposed inequality in America. And yes, this is totally...
Jamon Jordan conducts Black History tours around the city and through it caught COVID-19. The virus claimed his mother.
I was sick, but she got sick and she was gone within 5 days of her 14-day quarantine. In less than an hour of arriving at the hospital by ambulance.
That must just be so galling for you to look at people protesting in Lansing the lockdown.
They got guns and they're standing in front of law enforcement and nobody tackles one of them. No one puts a knee on their neck. No one, they almost don't even get arrested, and they're shouting in the faces of officers. Yes, it is appalling because African Americans, of course, are dying at a higher rate. They're less likely to have health insurance. They're less likely to be treated correctly by the health system, more likely to do the jobs that are most likely to get them in the position of catching this horrible disease, which is, to me, part of the reason why they went to Lansing. This is a disease that is killing that group of people. And so we don't want to be restricted because they're dying. As a historian and looking at the way history goes, I'm not an optimist about where we're headed right now.
He sees a mixed enthusiasm for voting around him.
Well, I'm seeing people who just feel like there have to be a change and they really, really want to vote. And there's other people who feel like this is it. There's no chance of anything changing. It's gotten so bad that they're disgusted with the whole system and they don't believe that anything works.
Protests have been held here every day since the police killing of George Floyd.
Not say her name. Tell me, what do we do?
In 2016, voter turnout was low here. The challenge for the Democrat campaign is to translate this activism into actual votes.
It has a lot to do with the current president, as he is super oblivious to the current social problems that we have. But at the same time, it's not just him. It's not just the position of the president. It's not just the position of the vice president or whoever's in leadership. It's the entire system. And we got to break that entire system.
The rate of COVID-19 infection in the black community is 4 times higher than the rest of the state. They were the city's essential workers during the shutdown. Deisha Hargrove's husband drove buses for the city.
He wasn't just a bus driver. He also was a deacon in his church. That spiritual piece, he had that. Gentle giant, you know, Jason was a big guy, so he can come off as intimidating when you first meet him. He's 6'3", but he had a heart of gold.
Jason made headlines 3 days after the first COVID death in Michigan. A passenger coughed in the bus and he live-streamed his distress.
Some folks don't care, utterly don't give a fuck. Excuse my language, but that's how I feel right about now. For a grown-ass person in her late 50s, early 60s to stand on the fucking bus and cough 4 and 5 times without covering up your mouth, and you know we in the midst of a motherfucking crisis with this coronavirus, I am pissed the fuck off.
2 days later, he was like, hey, I just don't feel, I don't feel well.
As he got sicker, he made 2 trips to the local hospital, Sinai Grace, but they wouldn't admit him. Eventually, struggling to breathe, he asked his son to drive him in once more.
I love you. He says, I love you too, baby. I said, call me. So I waited, and I waited, and I waited all night just for him to give me an update, let me know what's going on. And I would never get that update. I never got it.
While she's grieving, she's been laid off from her job as a barista, and she's worried about how to pay the bills. She's also facing another problem. The family's health insurance policy was tied to Jason's work.
As of last month, I'm not covered.
Does that worry you now?
Of course, of course.
Deisha is encouraging people not to waste their vote.
We have to do so much more than what we're doing. And for those who are not voting at all, we gotta do it. It's detrimental. We have to. You have to. It's so much more important, you know, now than ever before, I believe.
An hour out of Detroit, I have an appointment in what feels like an alternate universe. Hey, Londa. David.
Oh, David!
Hey,
You're the
darling.
guy that I talked to on the phone?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Nice to
How
meet
you
you.
going? Good to meet you.
Good. Nice to meet you, too.
Thanks for
Guys,
having us.
You want to come in?
Yeah, sure. Londa Gatt is an ardent Trump supporter, as well as a mother and a hairdresser.
All right. How did you want me to trim your hair? Exactly, Mom.
You're the hairdresser.
Just do what I normally do?
Her and I talk politics all the time. We believe the same way, so it's easy to talk politics with her. Like all these riots and protests, that's not about George Floyd. They're slowly leading America into socialism. And
It's a test run.
yeah,
One world order.
yeah, that's what it is. I believe that. I believe that wholeheartedly. That's what's going on.
Londa's mother, Kathy, doesn't think much of the virus either, or isolating at home.
I was at the store the other day, and the lady, she said, "You're one of those people that aren't supposed to be out." And I said, "Well, yeah, I am out, and you know what? I'm not scared. I don't believe it's as bad as they say it is."
This has been blown out, the virus,
Yeah,
way out of
yeah.
proportion.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Got a nice haircut.
$20. No, I'm just kidding.
Londa's offered to show me her Trump room. She's deeply afraid for America and believes he's been sent by God to save the country. This is a cool room. This is your man?
Yeah. I got that as a Christmas present from my kids. He's badass. You know what we like about him? He speaks the truth. He exposes the corruption that was never known to the public, and they've got to wait for it for I don't know how many decades. When I met him, I whispered in his ear and I said, "Listen," I said, "you're gonna fry them, right, Hillary?" He goes, "Don't you worry." He goes, "I'll take care of her."
Right.
I pray for him a lot. He's had a lot of attacks on his life, but you don't hear about it.
Londa spends a lot of time on Facebook where she reads about conspiracies that have been discredited but she believes are true.
You ever heard of Q?
QAnon?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. They leak a lot of information, but they talk in code. So here, I don't usually show this, but I made the national dean's list. That's
She did a
another story.
nursing
I
degree,
wanted to-
gaining honours.
Got my bachelor's. I was the first person in my family. My mom only went to 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me to do that, it was huge. This picture right here is, we were invited to a VIP party at the White House.
Trump galore.
Yeah.
He's like a superhero for you, almost, isn't he?
If he doesn't win, America's screwed. Really. In my opinion, and I was never involved in politics in my life, but when he exposed everything that he did, I just voted. I've never been engaged and got in, the front ground, whatever you want to call it, until I found out what was going on in our country. And I battled having children. Sorry.
That's right.
Because of how America was 30 years ago.
Londa remembers the 1980s when the great America she knew ended abruptly.
Should I have kids? Should I not have kids? And then I thought, okay, I'm just gonna give it to God, And then when Trump exposed all this, I'm like, I gotta do something to try to help make a difference for my kids, for the future of America, So that's why I got involved.